Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. These are Uukha limbs. Why Uukha and what's the difference and all about it? These limbs are faster. Okay, Uukha produce three types of limbs. Just roughly 50% carbon, so then the other half would be 50% fiberglass, 80% carbon, then 100% carbon. I feel like they've got a fourth. Maybe they do have a fourth, and maybe they've just cut it back to three because they've changed the name of the limbs. Okay, so I think they used to have four. Now they've got three. But this is the top of the range limb. Okay, why have I selected this limb? Because I had it in stock 60, 68, 48. I currently shoot 68, 48 pounds with a Fivics limb. So let's discuss what's the difference and why would I be interested in this. So last I knew, these limbs, so Fivics limbs in general shoot about 20 feet per second faster than a standard limb. Okay. So that's the first thing. So if you're struggling at hitting a distance, these are pretty cool. Now, these look nice. Look at that. These are glossy. These are glossy. These are very pretty limbs. I've never been game to shoot one of these limbs. So this is me testing one. Okay. I've never been game to test one because once you test it, then people don't want to buy it because it's got marks on the back here. Okay, so when people go, oh, can I feel what the limb's like? I'm like, because then I can't sell it. Because if as soon as it's got a mark here or a mark anywhere, I can't sell it, right? So, anyway. So these are the top of the range SX pluses. These are the thing. Now, what makes Uukha faster than a standard limb? And some are going to say different things. You know, it's got more carbon and stuff. It's a shape. It's got more recurve in it. What that means is, at the start here, it's going to build up poundage. It's going to build up poundage more at the start than a standard limb. A standard limb will build up more at the back. So the last time I shot Uukha limbs, I shot them for about a week. They actually hurt my muscles a lot. And I'm going to say I was back at 36 pounds then. Now I'm up to 51 pounds. They hurt my muscles a lot, so the equivalent Uukha limb, I would have to probably drop 4 pounds to a standard limb, because a standard limb only builds at that little last bit. So now the other part of a Uukha limb, these limb tips are very short. So it means using a normal bowstringer that goes tip to tip is really hard on the top. So you probably need limb to tip stringers like your Avalon, like your Legend, Gillo bowstringer to string these, which I don't have at home. I do have in the shop, but I don't have at home because I obviously didn't get prepared for this video. The back of the limb is a bit different. Now, Uukha limbs have a lifetime warranty, I think. I think. Check the warranty, right? But to claim the warranty, it needs to go back to Uukha. Okay, so you can't go, well, limbs are broken, I need a new set. No, it needs to go back. Uukha will not take the limbs back unless they come in the socks. So if you're thinking about throwing out these socks, don't, because Uukha will not take your limbs back. It's in the warranty without these socks in them. They have to be sent back to the factory with the socks. Okay. Now, most of the warranties I've seen with Uukhas, or all the warranties I've seen with Uukhas, have been on the edge. So I don't know if it's where something hits the limb or something touches the limb and like a little splinter lifts. Pretty sure, hand on my heart, that I've never seen a Uukha limb break. I think I've only ever seen splinters on the edges. So if you touch a limb on the edge, I'm going to say Hoyts, and people are going to say you're hating on Hoyts. Hoyts have got a very distinctive edge, a sharp edge. If that thing touches, it's going to splinter, right? So what most companies do is they roll the edges, so they have round edges, so more surface area. You can see these limbs have got a big surface area here, they're rounded. That's fairly standard. So you see on the front here it's rounded, but on the back here it's not. The back of the limb, on the edge here, it's quite sharp. So just bear that in mind. especially in this sort of area here, because that's quite sharp there. So if something hits it, these are the most beautiful limb, absolutely stunning. I think they're normally around $2,000. So we're going to try these limbs. We're going to see what it feels like to shoot. We're going to test the speed compared to the normal Fivics limbs. Uukahs are different. It's just the way it is. They're a different limb. Now, Nika, and I don't know if Uukah's going to hate me saying this, Nika have a limb which looks similar to a Uukah, and they have all the different grades. Now, from my findings of trying the Nikas, they didn't fit in very well in the limb pocket, so the gaps here, the tolerances weren't very good, and they were very sort of sloppy, so they moved around a lot. I think the Uukahs will be tight. We'll try that and see how they feel. So just bear in mind, if you have trouble fitting the limb, you can see in here they haven't varnished the inside here. So if you have trouble, it's either there where it goes into the pivot, or it's on the back here. Now, with your Uukahs, most limbs have got a drilled through hole here, so you've got a little screw which comes loose. You can see you don't have that on a Uukah, it's all flat here. So this is just glued into the back. So on normal limbs, it's very common that this little screw-in thing has got a spring inside. This comes loose and the spring pops out and this little pin here comes out. And everyone's like, I need a new pin. Now with Hoyt, I'm going to say with Hoyt, that little pin costs around $80. People lose their mind because their limbs cost $150, right? And they've lost the pin. So what I normally do is when I've got a warranty limb, I pull out the pins and I pull out the spring, and then I normally give it to people who lose it. But just bear in mind, if you lose the spring, you can't lose it in a Uukah, but in a normal limb, if you lose this, you could be up for $80. Right, that's a simple part, but that's just the way life is. And I think it's just that, it's $80. I don't know if it was the screw-in as well, but anyway, you can buy the screw-in things. I don't think they're that expensive. But anyway, let's try these limbs out and see how they go. Okay, so I fitted the Uukha SX Pluses, so top of the line limbs to the bow. It fitted well into the limb pivots here, limb bolts. A little bit, I'm going to say a little bit loose, not as tight as the Fivics, but it's pretty good. Clipped in nice and easily. I haven't shot a shot with these limbs yet. I'm just discussing them, so I'll do the first one on camera. The limb tips, I find, so my Fivics limbs, to string, I can string them easily, right? No problem without a stringer. With a stringer, even easier. I don't have a stringer at home to string these because the tip-to-tip won't work on the Uukahs, so I've got to do it on my foot. And because they're a higher recurve, very hard to string, I need to get my son to help me. And even then it's scary because these are so small, where the Fivics are big, like a standard limb. So quite scary to string compared to a normal limb. So bear that in mind. Right, so your Fivics, this is my understanding. The Fivics limbs are 68 inches. 48 pounds, these are 68 inches, 48 pounds. My understanding is Fivics measure their poundage at 26 inches. Some manufacturers measure it at maximum with the limbs wound in, and some measure it with the limbs at half settings, and some measure it with the limbs wound out. Okay, so you will get variations of 2 to 3 to 4 pounds on a set of limbs. If you stay with that brand, it will be consistent. But if you change from Win and Win to Fivics, just bear in mind the poundage may go up or go down depending on how they measure it. And this is just based on my understanding, and it's not written down anywhere, so this is my memory. I just know Fivics are always heavy. And when I say heavy, so that 48-pound limbs, I draw back about 29. The Fivics limbs come to me on this bow at a little bit over 50 pounds, so I call it 51 pounds. The Uukah limbs I weighed, they weighed pretty much exactly at 48 pounds, a little bit over 48. That's at 29 inches, so they're slightly lower. Now, my bow is, I think, wound in, so if you buy a Fivics riser, I think it's slightly wound out. So take from that what you will, but I know people lose their mind on bow poundage. So for me, it's just not a thing, right? I just think I can't tell 2 pounds, and I do have 46 pounds limbs. I've got 44 pound limbs. I've got 48 pound limbs. I can tell the difference between 44 and 48. 46, not so much. I can't really tell it. You need to be shooting all day. At the end of the day, you might feel a little bit more pain, but then it might be just you didn't eat as well the day before, or your body's just a bit exhausted. It could be something else. But I can't tell 2. Never been able to tell 2. I can tell 4. So now I've drawn back this bow. I haven't shot it. The bow, just draw it back. So the bow here feels stronger than the Fivics at that point, halfway. And when I get back to my anchor point, back here it feels a bit lighter, and that's because it's 48 versus 51, 3 pounds, hard to tell the difference. But at the start I can definitely feel the difference. So let's see the speed. These are ice points, they're 450s. They are, oh, I took down the little piece of paper. I think they're 330 grains, these ones. They've got 120 grain points. With my Fivics limbs, they shoot at, and I just did the test, under 200 feet per second. I think they're 197. I would be expecting with Uukha's, this is interesting because the poundage is less because it's 48 pound holding, but it builds up the thing. But last time I tested Uukha's, they're almost 20 feet per second faster. So, and I've never tested these limbs. The ones I've tested before were the SX 50s. So .196. Let's do that again. That is certainly not what I wanted. And I've certainly seen speeds of 20 feet per second more. That's certainly not what I wanted. I wanted 20 feet per second more, which I didn't get. .203. So I'm not getting the biggest speeds. Okay, so let's discuss these limbs. So when I normally get to my anchor point where the clicker is going to activate, it's like a wall, right? And I pull through the wall. So it's a distinctive wall that I pull through. With these limbs, it feels soft at that point. So for people will say it's easy to pull through on the clicker because it's soft at the back here. Like that's not right, it's 166. It's very, very different. For people with big long draw lengths where the bow's stacked, these limbs will be beautiful. These limbs are very popular with kids, very popular for bare bow because they tend to be faster. I was expecting 205. I was expecting noisier, and they're quite quiet. Okay, so now, so here's some of my issues. Just got a lizard in my garden. So my issue is my speeds tend to be varying a little bit. So 205, 203, 196. And I'm guessing it's because when I'm pulling through, I'm not getting the consistency through the draw cycle. 206 now. It's getting faster. But it feels significantly easier when I'm back here anchoring. Significantly. If I didn't know the poundage, and I know the poundage is 48, I'd be guessing it's 46. So I'm going to say a couple of things about this. So when people have had these limbs and they've had the SX50s, they say these limbs are significantly better, the better ones, right? They say the draw cycle is significantly better. I have shot the SX50s before, and I found it was very hard to draw because at the start it was more. But I'm stronger now. Okay, obviously I've built up. I shoot every day and I'm more advanced in the recurve journey. I'm not finding that. I'm finding this easy. This is easy to draw back. Like it's like nothing. So I feel like with the Uukahs, I feel like I really want 54 pounds, which is not. I expected these limbs would wreck my muscles. I was like, these are going to kill me, and I'm really going to be struggling pulling it back. But that's not what I'm finding at all. I'm finding this is really easy, and I'm finding the clicker is very easy. So often when I come to a nationals or a tournament, I'll have trouble pulling through the clicker because I'm trying to control it and there's lots of pressure back here, and I'm like really trying to aim instead of just executing a shot, and often I'll be struggling getting it through the clicker. Very common. Sometimes it's good, but it's common to be struggling to get through a clicker, right? With these limbs, nothing. It's like it just pulls through like butter. And it's not sore at the start. It's just easy. It's just easy all the way through. So on that. So I'm getting, let's just say, 10 feet per second faster. And it's so much easier. And it's also 3 pounds lighter than the equivalent Fivics limb. So if I went up another 3 or 4 pounds on Uukahs, then I would add another, probably 10 feet, which gives me my 20 feet per second, which is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more speed for 90 meters. So I don't know. So I like Uukah limbs. I think they're especially great for kids because they're generally faster, they're smoother, but the price point. The top of the line Fivics limb, let's discuss things. The top of the line Fivics limb is, let's say, $1,000. This is Australian dollars. The mid-price Fivics limbs, the Laters, are going to be $500. That's a carbon foam limb, $500, which is a great limb, right? Your Uukah limb, ballpark numbers, these ones I've got down for $1,400, but they're normally around $2,000. The SX50 used to be, let's say, $700. That's your bottom of the line. It's been replaced by another one, which I think they put the price up to, towards $900. So definitely the mid-price Uukah limb is more expensive than your top-of-the-line Fivics. Now, win limbs are higher in price to Fivics limbs, so they're more expensive. Not as expensive as Uukahs, but they're still expensive. Win have cheap limbs, so the $140 limbs. They have your $200 limbs. They have a $300 limb. They have $400. So many limbs in Win. Fivics literally have your top of the line limb, your $1,000 limb, your $500 limb, and your $150 limb. Right? So Fivics really have 3 limbs. They have a few at the top end, but they're basically the same. They've just called them the same name as their bow. Some people go, oh, it matches my name of the bow. But they're effectively the same. Scatty could be different, but it's basically the same materials. One has got 1K carbon, one's got 3K carbon. I couldn't tell the difference. I think the 1K is more expensive by $100. I couldn't tell it. Couldn't see the difference. Some of the Fivics limbs are a little bit skinnier here than the other Fivics limbs. I can't tell the difference in the shooting. With the Uukha limbs, I can tell. I can tell they're much smoother. They're much smoother through the clicker. So drawing back the Fivics, I get back here and I feel like I can't pull it anymore. It's like a wall. And I was talking to the Koreans, Win and Fivics about this, and they design them for that. So they say it creates more consistency on the release because it's higher at that point. I don't know. There are people at the Olympics shooting Uukha limbs. There are. It's not like you're not going to see them at the Olympics. You are. There's just not going to be many of them. You're going to see a whole bunch of Wins. You're going to see a few Hoyts. You're going to see a few Fivics. I'm going to say Fivics and Hoyt, probably more Fivics than Hoyt. And Hoyt give away lots of stuff. You'll see the most Wins, and then you'll see a few Uukahs. But I think where Uukahs come into their own is for the beginners, the kids, and they're a higher price limb, and they're quite quiet. I was quite impressed with how little noise comes from these limbs. So the other thing also with this limb I will make a note on, the Fivics limbs, often when I put them in for the first time, they do a crack noise. So it's like my bow's exploding. I think that's the seating in the limb bolts. I think it's very tight in the limb bolts, and it's just seating that place for the first shot. Where the Uukha limbs were a bit softer at that point. There was more movement there. So, but a beautiful limb. The graphics look stunning. Look absolutely stunning. So I'll leave you with that. So that's 10 feet per second, but significantly easier to draw. Now I will say I'm probably, one of my other issues, I'm thinking about going up in poundage again, and people are going to say you don't need to go up in poundage, but part of this for me is progressing as far as, I want to get stronger, I want to get fitter, I want to do stuff. It's not so much about the archery. That's fair. Like I had back problems last week, which I haven't discussed yet. It's about making the back stronger. It's about making the shoulders stronger. It's about, got a problem? I need to eat healthier. I need to improve my cardio. I need to improve my shoulders. I need to improve my core. I need to, right? Where if I shot 30 pounds, you can shoot that forever. No pain, right? So it's about, I want to work. I've got a problem. I want to fix it. So that's part of why I want to go higher. I think with Uukahs, and please check it, the SX50s or the cheaper ones stop at around the 40 pounds. The SX80s, the mid-price ones, maybe stop at 45, and the top of the line may stop at 48. Okay, I don't think they do beyond 50. I think, but I'll pull up those stats just so I can be clear with it. Fivics will make you the limb you want. So if you said to Fivics, I want a 60-pound limb, they will make it for you. You might have to wait a year, but they will make it for you. And when I say you might have to wait a year, I did ask for a high poundage limb, which wasn't in their catalogue. I think I asked for an argon, because I shoot an argon riser. I think I asked for argon in a higher poundage, and they just made it. But they will make you a heavier poundage limb. That's not advertised. Very few people would want that. There's one of the Olympians shoots, I think, towards 60-pound Fivics limbs. So Win, I don't know if they will make you limbs that are above 50 pounds. Most archers shoot 30 pounds, so this is not an issue for your average run-of-the-mill shooter. This is more an issue for the person who shoots all the time, who wants to improve their strength, who wants to push the limits, Fivics will definitely make them for you, and they're pretty affordable, I think, compared to the other limbs anyway. So it's not me going shoot Fivics or shoot Win and Win or shoot Uukha. That's just saying the difference between them, right? I think the Win and Win looks amazing. The Uukha limb looks incredible. And I don't think at the elite level the cost is really a thing. I think it's more about the way the limb looks, the aesthetics of it, whether it looks pretty or not pretty to a person. The colours are big. If the limb's not the right colour, the person won't buy it. Which, you know, if it's green, they won't buy it if they have a blue riser, because green won't match the blue, whatever it is, right? So colours are really important. And for Uukha, they're going to buy them because they're faster. So it's going to give them an edge, and you know, for smooth, it is smoother. So if you're struggling pulling it through that clicker, probably a good developing limb. So because you build up more here, and then back here it's easier to pull through. So, but definitely before with the Uukahs, the same poundage Uukahs of the Fivics, when I was at 36 pound, it hurt me to shoot. This is easy, so I don't know if it's because it's the high quality carbon versus the cheaper 50% carbon, but this is easy at 48 pounds. It's too easy for me. When I say too easy, I just don't feel like, I'm not feeling my muscles working the same way as I do with the Fivics limbs. And last week they hurt too much. They really hurt me, the Fivics. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. I'm Stephen Hand. Thanks for watching. Bye.